I got to say, I was one of the people who clicked on the QR code and went to the Coinbase website. So it worked with me, and here we are talking about it. But is that success or not?
Yeah, well, it's interesting to think about what happened there. You have the chief product officer over at Coinbase saying that they had the most traffic that they ever had. And you're seeing it in the numbers when it comes to Coinbase. They are rising. They have risen very far up in the App Store for Apple, up to number 2. In fact, Emily, you can't see another crypto company, another crypto exchange in the top 5, let alone the top 10 or the top 20 if you don't count the Cash App for the Apple App Store. So in that way, it is a success. But with all of that said, you are not seeing a surge in Bitcoin prices that go along with all of these new potential users. You have Coinbase giving away $15 to new users, millions to existing customers as gratitude, but Bitcoin prices itself as a result of all of these promotions plus these other exchanges has not risen even $1,000 over the last couple of days, even with a little bit of a decline the last couple of days. So what does this all mean at the end? What does it mean for these companies? These customer acquisition costs moving forward might get difficult. And if you look at companies like Coinbase, like SoFi even, that hosted the Super Bowl, now trading stocks, now trading crypto, along with eToro as well, SoFi and Coinbase are actually down more than 20% on the year when you look at their stocks in U.S. trading. So it will be interesting to see whether this translates into a business model, let alone just popularity online.
All right, Sonali, hang with us. I want to dig into this crypto ad takeover and the merits of it or not with Kraken CEO Jesse Powell. Kraken skipped the crypto ad bonanza on Sunday. Jesse, great to have you back with us. So why didn't you do a Super Bowl ad? I mean, everyone else did.
You know, sometimes it's nice to be second and see what happens to all the guys who want to run out there first. You know, I think the customer acquisition costs that some of these guys are paying, you know, buying these stadiums, buying these sports teams. I'm a bit skeptical that this is going to play out in the long term as a positive investment. You know, I think this is really a marathon. I don't think, you know, I think at any given time, there are only so many people interested in coming into the crypto space. And I think, you know, spending thousands of dollars for per user acquisition is definitely not going to be sustainable. So, you know, we don't have to be first at everything. You know, we just kind of, we want to be the best at what we do, and we want to have, you know, a long-term sustainable business. It's not just about making a flash in the pan, you know, for our investors, for employees. You know, we're here running a business, not a popularity contest.
But is this a good strategy for the overall crypto space? Do you think this will bring in a lot of new owners, or does it just oversaturate, overhype things?
It's a great question, you know, and I think it'll be great to see. Maybe we'll find out in the public reports from Coinbase, you know, what this proved out to do for them. Was it more than just getting a bunch of visitors to your website? Did it actually translate into revenue at the end of the day? You know, I think that's yet to be seen, and we'll be watching closely, and hopefully we'll get some indication as to whether these campaigns were successful.
Jesse, I'm really curious about the winning strategy here, because you're seeing firms like FTX that expand further into the stock market in addition to crypto. You see firms like them and others look to provide more, and Coinbase really provide more access to institutional investors where the ticket size is so much bigger than the retail investor in a purchase of any Bitcoin. So for you, what is the way to go in terms of building a bigger business?
We're really focused on the consumer segment right now. You know, historically, the company is almost 11 years old now, but we were historically focused on the institutional segment, on the professional trader segment, and only in the last year have we started to focus on consumer. And yes, the check sizes are bigger for institutions. However, they're also much more price sensitive. You know, they're sensitive to the fees. So, and there are fewer of them. So I don't think that you necessarily get to a bigger business just by serving that demographic. You know, if you just look at the valuation of a PayPal versus CME Group or a NASDAQ, you know, PayPal is multiple times bigger than those. And it's because of the consumer focus and the global focus. And so, you know, that's the direction we're headed. I think there's a bigger business there. There's more room for a brand identity there and brand loyalty. And I think the focus on institutional, while it might seem attractive in the short term, I think there's a cap to that business, and I think that those clients are not necessarily loyal. You know, they might be loyal to where they get the lowest fees, and the lowest fees, you know, are your revenue. So from a business perspective, I think it makes sense, at least for us, to focus more on the consumer business while we still continue to serve the institutional business. Our focus, and that's where our roots are, but our focus today is on consumer.
Curious what your thoughts are on this BlockFi $100 million penalty and how it's impacting your regulatory approach. I know you recently tweeted that you're hiring 30 lawyers who are probably going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Marco said, we would hire up to 60. It's a great time to be a lawyer. The crypto industry broadly, has a lot of unanswered questions, and I think that'll continue to be the case for a long time as things shape up globally. In terms of our business, we have a banking license in Wyoming, so we might have a bit of a different approach to the lending business in the future, but I think it kind of confirms kind of the suspicions that we've had all along about this model. Is that we weren't totally sure that this was going to survive regulatory scrutiny, and it sounds like it hasn't in the United States, which is one of the reasons why we pursued the banking license in the first place, which we feel like would allow us to do some of these things that maybe BlockFi is not able to do now in the United States with consumers.
I'm curious, there's what you do with regulators and there's what you do on your own and in an independent audit. The idea of proof of reserves. How does this start to change the landscape for consumers and consumer protection? And what is it really doing to prove what's there for the underlying assets?
Yeah, so we recently completed a proof of reserves audit. It's the second in our company's history. We pioneered this process about 7 years ago when we did the first one in the industry. And since then, there have been other companies that have done it, but we're by far the largest venue to have done this in recent history. And what it does is allows the users to confirm for themselves through cryptography that we actually control the coins that we say we do, that we hold for them, that they can prove cryptographically that in a quote unquote like bank run type scenario, where if everyone came for their withdrawals at the same time, that we would be able to serve those withdrawals. So, I think we've seen over history, there's been tens of billions of dollars of funds stolen or lost or misappropriated somehow in the crypto space. And, this is something that's just unprecedented in traditional finance. You don't have this level of transparency. The regulators aren't even mandating this stuff of banks. You never know if you go to the bank if they're going to be able to process your withdrawal or not. I've had experiences myself where I go to the bank and ask for some amount of cash, and they say, well, you're going to have to come back in a few days because we don't have that cash. So, this is something that is above and beyond what any traditional financial institution can offer. And it's something that the crypto industry is doing for itself. And I think it sets a great example for the world and for regulators and for law enforcement who are worried about these situations of insolvency, that this industry can control for these things and it can self-regulate. And this sets a new bar. I hope that regulators will start to look at and start to apply the scrutiny that they have of the crypto industry back on the traditional finance industry, which is not offering these kinds of tools or transparency.
I noticed, Jesse, that you are promoting crypto for Valentine's Day, and I'm curious why you think that's a way to show your loved one that you care, given the volatility of the market. I mean, can we really count on Bitcoin right now, especially where it's at in the moment?
Look, I think diamonds are just losing value every day. So, you would be much better off giving your partner some Bitcoin today and having them hold on to that for the next 20 years than you would be giving them a diamond, which are being created in labs these days. That cannot happen with Bitcoin. There's a finite supply. I'm very bullish on the currency long term and the prospects of the entire industry. So, I think it's a fantastic gift. It brings someone into the space, and Bitcoin is more than price speculation. It's solving real world problems. Like we're seeing in Canada, where you have fundraisers being shut down by the government or by centralized fundraising platforms, and Bitcoin is circumventing that and getting around that and getting money directly to the people. So, I think it's a vote for freedom, and it's a representation of true love if you give someone Bitcoin.
Jesse, well, I know beyond what it means, I am curious about the price here, because anybody who loved Bitcoin last year at 60,000 or so was still thinking it could possibly get to 100K. I know you thought so at 1.2. How fast do we get there again?
For sure. I've still got my Lambo reservation on hold. Hoping to get one with air conditioning. So, I think I'm still bullish on the price. I think, yeah, a lot of us thought that we were going to get over $100,000 last year. But, you can't predict these things. Ultimately, what we see are continuing use cases and continuing reasons for people to use Bitcoin. I mean, inflation is at an all-time high since the 80s. And that's the stated inflation. We all know when we go to the supermarket that inflation is way beyond 7.5%. So, that combined with the controls, the clampdown on these protests and legitimate fundraising efforts, I think shows that the use case for Bitcoin is getting stronger and stronger. And there's just more and more reason to believe in it long term.